The diner's neon sign flickered, casting a pinkish glow over the cracked pavement. Mia's boots scraped against the asphalt, the sound swallowed by the early morning hum of a small Virginia town waking up. She was 27, a part-time janitor, and the weight of her life felt heavier than the mop she dragged behind her. Her hands, rough from years of scrubbing floors, clutched a thermos of black coffee, bitter, like the thoughts she couldn't shake. Another day, another dollar, another nothing. Her breath fogged in the crisp air, a sigh that carried the ache of dreams she'd buried long ago. Inside Ellie's diner, the air smelled of bacon grease and burnt toast. The bell above the door jingled as Mia pushed it open, her denim jacket brushing against the frame. She wasn't supposed to be here this early. Her shift didn't start till 6, but sleep had been a stranger lately. The diner was her refuge, a place where the world felt less heavy, even if just for a moment. Then she saw her. Lena, 29, the barista who made the diner feel like home. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, strands escaping like they were trying to break free. Her green apron was smudged with coffee stains, and her hazel eyes sparkled under the fluorescent lights. She was wiping down the counter, humming a tune Mia didn't recognize, her movements quick but graceful, like she was dancing with the rag. Mia's heart thudded, a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. God, she's beautiful. Lena looked up, catching Mia's gaze. A smile broke across her face, warm and unguarded, like sunlight spilling through a cracked window. "You're early janitor girl," she teased, her voice carrying a playful lilt. Mia's cheeks burned. She mumbled something about needing coffee and shuffled toward the back, her boots squeaking on the linoleum. But Lena's eyes lingered and Mia felt it. A spark, a pull, something alive in the space between them. The mopping was mindless, the slosh of soapy water a steady rhythm. Mia kept stealing glances at Lena, who was now pouring coffee for Old Man Jenkins, the diner's resident grump. Lena laughed at something he said, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. Mia's chest tightened. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. Not here, not in this town where whispers traveled faster than truth. She'd learned that lesson the hard way in high school, when her first crush on a girl had turned into a wildfire of rumors that burned her confidence to ash. But Lena was different. She didn't just see Mia, she saw her. The way her eyes softened when Mia walked in. The way she'd slip an extra muffin into Mia's bag with a wink. It was dangerous, this feeling. Mia had spent years building walls, convincing herself love was for other people, not for someone like her. A janitor with no future, no family, no one to call her own. Yet every time Lena smiled, those walls cracked a little more. The morning rush hit hard. Waitresses darted between tables, plates clattering, voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony. Mia stayed in the background, sweeping up crumbs, wiping down booths, her hands moving on autopilot. But her eyes kept finding Lena, who was now juggling 3 coffee pots and a tray of pastries. A toddler at table 5 spilled juice, and Mia was there in an instant, rag in hand, cleaning it up before Lena could stress. Lena mouthed a quick thanks, and Mia's heart did that stupid flip again. By noon the diner quieted. Mia leaned against the counter, her thermos empty, her body aching from the morning's work. Lena slid a fresh cup of coffee her way, the steam curling like a secret between them. "Rough night?" Lena asked, her voice soft like she actually cared. Mia shrugged, staring into the coffee's dark surface. "Just life, you know?" Her voice was rough like gravel, and she hated how vulnerable it sounded. Lena leaned closer, her elbow brushing Mia's. The contact was electric, sending a jolt through Mia's tired bones. "You ever gonna tell me what's going on in that head of yours?" Lena's tone was light, but her eyes were serious, searching. Mia's throat tightened. She wanted to spill everything, the loneliness, the fear. The way Lena's smile made her feel like she could breathe again. But the words stayed locked inside, heavy as the mop bucket in the corner. Instead she said, "Maybe one day." It was a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. Lena's hand grazed Mia's just for a second, before she pulled back to serve another customer. Mia's skin burned where they'd touched. And she knew she was in trouble. This wasn't just a crush. This was a collision. A spark threatening to ignite everything she tried to keep buried. And in a town like this, where judgment hung in the air like humidity, love like theirs could burn them both to the ground. The diner's clock ticked past 2. The lunch crowd thinning to a few stragglers nursing cold coffee. Mia's arms ached from scrubbing tables, but the real pain was in her chest, a gnawing ache that grew every time Lena's laugh echoed through the diner. She was wiping down the counter when Lena appeared beside her, close enough that Mia could smell her shampoo, something soft like lavender. It made her dizzy. "You're quiet today," Lena said, nudging Mia's shoulder. Her voice was warm, but there was an edge to it, like she was fishing for something. Mia's grip tightened on the rag, the damp cloth twisting in her hands. "Just tired," Mia lied, her voice barely above a whisper. She kept her eyes on the counter, afraid to meet Lena's gaze. Afraid of what she'd see there. Afraid of what she'd feel. Lena didn't push. She never did. Instead, she slid a plate of fries toward Mia. The edges crispy just the way Mia liked them. "Eat something," Lena said, her tone firm but kind. "You look like you're running on fumes." Mia managed a half-smile, grabbing a fry. It was warm, salty, and perfect, but it did nothing to fill the hollow space inside her. She wanted to tell Lena everything. How she'd moved to this town 3 years ago to escape a family that didn't want her. How she'd taken this job because it was the only one that didn't ask questions. How Lena's kindness was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. But the words stayed stuck, like gum under a table. The bell jingled, and a group of regulars strolled in. 3 guys in flannel, their voices loud and their laughter louder. Mia recognized them from church, the kind of guys who quoted Bible verses but tipped like they'd never heard of generosity. They settled into a booth, and Lena went to take their order, her smile professional but strained. Mia watched from the corner, her stomach twisting as one of the guys, a broad-shouldered man named Caleb, leaned too close to Lena, his voice dripping with charm that felt more like oil than honey. Mia's hands clenched. She knew that look, that tone. She'd heard it before, directed at her in high school, when boys thought they could fix her with a date. She wanted to march over to tell Caleb to back off, but she stayed rooted, her boots glued to the floor. Lena handled it with a laugh and a quick step back, but Mia saw the flicker of discomfort in her eyes. When Lena returned to the counter, her smile was gone. "Some people," she muttered, grabbing a rag to wipe down a perfectly clean spot. Mia wanted to say something, to ask if she was okay, but her tongue felt heavy, useless. Instead, she reached out, her fingers brushing Lena's wrist. It was a small gesture, barely noticeable, but Lena's eyes softened, and for a moment the world felt right. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of spilled drinks and sticky floors. Mia's shift ended at 4, but she lingered, pretending to reorganize the cleaning closet. Really, she just wanted to be near Lena, to soak in the sound of her voice, the way she moved like she belonged here, like she was the heart of this place. When Lena finally clocked out, she grabbed her jacket, a faded denim thing that matched Mia's, and tilted her head toward the door. "Walk with me." Mia's heart skipped. She nodded, shoving her hands in her pockets to hide their trembling. Outside, the air was cool, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. The town was quiet, the only sounds the crunch of gravel under their boots and the distant hum of a lawnmower. They walked side by side, their shoulders brushing every few steps, and Mia felt like she was floating and drowning all at once. "You ever think about leaving this place?" Lena asked, her voice soft but heavy, like she was carrying something too big to hold alone. Mia glanced at her, surprised. Lena's eyes were fixed on the horizon, her jaw tight. "Every day," Mia admitted, her voice raw. "But where would I go? This is all I've got." She gestured vaguely at the town, at the diner, at herself. Lena stopped walking, turning to face her. The sunset caught her hair, turning it gold, and Mia's breath caught in her throat. "You've got more than you think," Lena said, her voice steady but intense. "You're not just the janitor, Mia. You're," she trailed off, her cheeks flushing. Mia's heart pounded so loud she was sure Lena could hear it. "What am I?" Mia asked, the words slipping out before she could stop them. She took a step closer, their faces inches apart. Lena's eyes searched hers, and for a moment Mia thought she might say it, might put words to the thing they'd both been dancing around for weeks. But Lena just smiled, a sad, beautiful thing, and said, "You're enough." And then she turned and kept walking, leaving Mia standing there, her heart a mess of hope and fear and something she was too scared to name. The next morning, Mia woke to the sound of rain tapping against her apartment's single window. The room was small, barely big enough for a bed and a second-hand dresser, the air thick with the musty smell of damp walls. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, Lena's words echoing in her head. "You're enough." They felt like a lifeline and a weight all at once, pulling her toward something she wasn't sure she deserved. At the diner, the rain kept the crowd light. Mia mopped the floor, the rhythm of the task grounding her even as her thoughts spun. Lena was behind the counter, her movements slower today, her smile less bright. Mia noticed the way her hand shook slightly as she poured coffee, the way her eyes darted toward the door every time the bell jingled. Something was off, and it gnawed at Mia's gut. "You okay?" Mia asked during a lull, leaning against the counter. Her voice was low, meant only for Lena. The barista glanced up, her hazel eyes clouded with something Mia couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or exhaustion. "Just a rough night," Lena said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She turned away, busying herself with refilling sugar packets, but Mia wasn't fooled. She'd seen that look before, on her own face in the mirror after nights spent wrestling with her own demons. The day dragged, the rain a constant drone against the diner's windows. Mia kept close to Lena, finding excuses to linger, wiping down a counter that was already clean, refilling napkin dispensers that didn't need it. Every time their eyes met, Mia felt that spark again, but now it was tinged with worry. She wanted to ask, to push, but she knew better. Lena would talk when she was ready, or so Mia hoped. By late afternoon, the diner was nearly empty. Mia was sweeping near the back when she heard raised voices. Caleb and his buddies were back, their laughter louder than the rain. Lena was at their table, her posture stiff, her smile tight. Mia's grip on the broom tightened as Caleb's hand lingered on Lena's arm, his voice low and suggestive. Mia's blood boiled, but before she could move, Lena pulled away, her voice sharp as she said, "I've got work to do." Caleb laughed, but there was an edge to it, a challenge. Mia stepped forward, her boots loud against the floor. "Everything okay here?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. Lena's eyes flicked to her, a mix of relief and something else, something that made Mia's heart race. "We're fine, Janitor," Caleb said, his tone mocking. "Just having a little fun." His buddies snickered, but Mia didn't flinch. She held his gaze, her jaw tight, until he looked away, muttering something under his breath. Lena slipped behind the counter, her hands trembling as she grabbed a rag. Mia followed, keeping her distance but close enough to be there. "You don't have to put up with that," Mia said quietly, her voice rough with anger. "Not from him. Not from anyone." Lena's eyes met hers, and for a moment the world fell away. "I know," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "But it's not that simple." She turned away, her shoulders hunched, and Mia felt a crack in her heart. She wanted to reach out, to pull Lena close, to tell her she'd fight the whole damn town if it meant keeping her safe. But she didn't. She just stood there, the broom heavy in her hands, watching Lena disappear into the kitchen. That night Mia couldn't sleep. The rain had stopped, but the air felt heavy, charged with something she couldn't name. She sat on her bed, her phone in her hands, Lena's number glowing on the screen. She'd gotten it weeks ago, when Lena had insisted on texting her the diner's schedule. Mia's thumb hovered over the call button, her heart pounding. What would I even say? She typed out a message instead. "You okay? I'm here if you need me." Her finger hesitated, then hit send. The seconds stretched into eternity, each one a weight on her chest. When her phone buzzed, she nearly dropped it. "Thanks, Mia. I'm okay. Just need time." The words were simple, but they hit like a punch. Mia stared at the screen, her throat tight. She wanted to ask what was wrong, to demand answers, but she knew Lena's walls were as high as her own. So she typed back anytime and set the phone down, her heart a tangled mess of hope and fear. The next few days were a blur of routine mopping, sweeping, scrubbing, all while Mia's thoughts circled Lena. The barista was quieter now, her smiles rare and fleeting. Mia noticed the way Lena's eyes darted to the door, the way her hands fidgeted when Caleb and his crew showed up. It was like watching a storm gather, and Mia felt powerless to stop it. On Friday, the diner was packed, the air thick with the smell of fried eggs and syrup. Mia was in the back, hauling trash bags to the dumpster, when she heard Lena's voice, sharp, panicked. She dropped the bag, the thud of garbage barely registering as she sprinted inside. Lena was at the counter, her face pale, Caleb leaning over it, his voice low and menacing. "Come on, sweetheart, don't be like that," he was saying, his hand gripping her wrist. Mia didn't think. She crossed the diner in 3 strides, her boots slamming against the floor. "Let her go," she said, her voice low but steady, cutting through the hum of the crowd. Caleb turned, his smirk faltering when he saw the fire in Mia's eyes. "Stay out of this, Janitor," he snapped, but his grip on Lena loosened. Mia stepped closer, her hands clenched into fists, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. "I said let her go." Her voice was a growl now, raw and unyielding. The diner went quiet, all eyes on them. Caleb released Lena's wrist, stepping back with a forced laugh. "Whatever," he muttered, tossing a few bills on the counter before stalking out with his buddies. The bell jingled and the tension broke, the diner humming back to life. Lena rubbed her wrist, her eyes fixed on the counter, her breathing uneven. Mia wanted to reach for her, to pull her into her arms and never let go, but she didn't. Instead, she grabbed a rag and started wiping down the counter, giving Lena space. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft but thick with worry. Lena nodded, but her eyes were glassy, her hands still trembling. "Thanks," she whispered, barely audible over the clatter of plates. Mia wanted to say more, to ask why Lena didn't report Caleb, why she let him get away with it, but the words wouldn't come. She just kept wiping, the rag moving in circles, her heart a mess of anger and longing. That night, Lena texted her, "Can we talk? Meet me at the park." Mia's stomach flipped. She pulled on her jacket and headed out, the cool night air biting at her skin. The park was a short walk, its swings creaking in the breeze, the streetlights casting long shadows. Lena was there, sitting on a bench, her knees pulled to her chest. She looked small, fragile, nothing like the vibrant woman who lit up the diner. Mia sat beside her, leaving a careful distance. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Lena spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Caleb, he's been coming around more. Saying things. Following me after work." Her hands twisted together, her knuckles white. "I didn't want to tell anyone. I thought I could handle it." Mia's blood ran cold. She wanted to find Caleb, to make him pay, but she forced herself to stay calm. "You don't have to handle it alone," she said, her voice steady despite the rage burning inside her. "I'm here, Lena. I've got you." Lena's eyes met hers, and for the first time, Mia saw fear there, raw, unguarded. But there was something else too. Trust. Lena reached out, her hand finding Mia's, their fingers intertwining. The touch was warm, grounding, and Mia felt her walls crumble just a little more. "I'm scared," Lena admitted, her voice breaking. "Not just of him. Of this." She gestured between them, her eyes searching Mia's. I've always known I liked women, but this town, it's not kind to people like us." Mia's heart ached. She knew that fear, had lived it her whole life. "I know," she said, squeezing Lena's hand. "But you're not alone. Not anymore." They sat there, hands clasped, the night wrapping around them like a blanket. Mia didn't have all the answers, but for the first time she felt like she didn't need them. All she needed was Lena, and the courage to hold on to this fragile, beautiful thing they'd found. The park became their sanctuary. Over the next week, Mia and Lena met there every night, stealing moments under the cover of darkness. They talked about everything: Lena's dreams of opening her own coffee shop, Mia's love for old jazz records she'd found in thrift stores, the way the stars felt closer in this quiet town. Each night, their hands found each other, their fingers lacing together like they were meant to fit. Mia felt alive, like she was waking up from a long gray sleep. But the days were different. At the diner, Lena was still jumpy, her eyes scanning the room whenever the bell jingled. Caleb hadn't come back since the confrontation, but his absence felt like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Mia kept close, her presence a silent promise. "I've got you." She noticed the little things: Lena's forced smiles, the way her hands shook when she poured coffee, the way she'd flinch at loud noises. It broke Mia's heart, but it also fueled her resolve. She wasn't going to let Caleb or this town take Lena's light. One evening, as they sat on their bench, Lena leaned her head on Mia's shoulder. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, and the crickets sang a soft chorus. "I wish we could just leave," Lena murmured, her voice heavy with longing. "Go somewhere no one knows us. Start over." Mia's chest tightened. She dreamed of leaving, of escaping the weight of this town, but the idea of doing it with Lena felt too big, too fragile. "Where would we go?" she asked, her voice soft, testing the waters. Lena lifted her head, her eyes bright with a mix of fear and hope. "Anywhere. Seattle, maybe. They've got coffee shops on every corner. I could work, you could, I don't know, find something better than mopping floors." She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "You deserve better, Mia." Mia's throat burned. No one had ever said that to her before. She wanted to believe it, to believe in a future where they could be together, free from judgment and fear. But doubt crept in, cold and familiar. "What if it's not that easy?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if we leave and it's just more of the same?" Lena's hand found hers, squeezing tight. "Then we face it together," she said, her voice fierce. "I'm not letting you go, Mia. Not now. Not ever." Mia's heart soared and sank all at once. She wanted to kiss Lena, to seal this promise under the stars, but fear held her back. Instead, she rested her forehead against Lena's, their breaths mingling in the cool night air. It was enough for now. The next day, trouble found them. Mia was mopping the diner's floor when Caleb walked in, his eyes dark and his jaw set. Lena was behind the counter, and Mia saw the moment she froze, her hands gripping a coffee pot like a lifeline. Mia dropped the mop, her boots loud as she moved toward the counter, positioning herself between Lena and Caleb. "What do you want?" Mia asked, her voice steady but sharp. The diner was quiet, the few customers watching, the air thick with tension. Caleb's smirk was back, but it was colder now, more dangerous. "Just a coffee," he said, his eyes flicking to Lena. "And maybe a chat with my favorite barista." Lena's voice was small but firm. "I'm working, Caleb. Leave me alone." His smirk faded, replaced by something uglier. "You think you're too good for me?" he said, stepping closer. Mia moved forward, her body a shield, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. "Back off," Mia said, her voice low and dangerous. "Now." Caleb laughed, but it was hollow. He leaned in, his voice a whisper meant only for Mia. "You think you can protect her? You're nothing. Just a janitor." His words cut deep, but Mia didn't flinch. She held his gaze, her fists clenched, until he finally stepped back, tossing $1 on the counter before storming out. Lena was shaking when Mia turned to her, her eyes wide with fear and gratitude. "You didn't have to do that," she said, her voice trembling. "Yes, I did," Mia said, her voice soft but certain. She reached out, her hand brushing Lena's cheek, and for a moment the world was just them, two women scared but strong, holding on to something worth fighting for. The confrontation with Caleb changed something. Lena was quieter, her smiles rarer, but she clung to Mia in a way that felt both desperate and beautiful. They spent every night in the park, their conversations deeper, their touches braver. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, Lena kissed Mia. It was soft, tentative, but it set Mia's world on fire. She kissed back, her hands tangling in Lena's hair, the taste of coffee and hope on her lips. It was a promise, a beginning, and Mia felt like she could finally breathe. But the town was watching. Whispers started, carried on the wind like smoke. Mia noticed the looks, sharp glances from regulars, hushed conversations that stopped when she walked by. Lena felt it too, her shoulders hunching as she worked, her eyes avoiding the crowd. Mia wanted to scream, to tell them all to mind their own business, but she knew it wouldn't help. This town didn't forgive difference, and love like theirs was a sin in their eyes. One morning, Mia found a note slipped under the diner's door, addressed to Lena. The words were cruel, jagged, written in angry black ink. "Leave or you'll regret it." Mia's blood ran cold. She showed it to Lena, whose face paled as she read it. "It's him," Lena whispered, her voice shaking. "Caleb." Mia's hands clenched into fists. "We need to tell someone," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. "The police, the manager, someone." Lena shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. "They won't help. This town, they're all the same." She crumpled the note, her hands trembling. "I thought I could handle it, but I can't. Not anymore." Mia pulled her close, her arms wrapping around Lena like a shield. "You don't have to," she said, her voice fierce. "We'll figure this out. Together." They went to the park that night, but the air felt different, heavy with the weight of what was coming. Lena's voice was quiet as she spoke, her words spilling out like a confession. "I've been running my whole life," she said, her eyes fixed on the ground. "From my family, from myself. I thought I could start over here, but it's just the same. I'm tired, Mia. I'm so tired." Mia's heart broke. She wanted to fix it, to take away Lena's pain, but all she could do was hold her, their hands clasped tight. "You're not alone anymore," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Lena's eyes met hers, and for a moment, Mia saw hope there, fragile but real. They kissed again, harder this time, like they were trying to hold on to something the world wanted to take away. The night wrapped around them, the crickets a soft chorus, and Mia felt like they could face anything as long as they had each other. But the next day, everything changed. Mia arrived at the diner to find Lena behind the counter, her face pale, her hands shaking as she poured coffee. A bruise bloomed on her wrist, faint but unmistakable. Mia's stomach dropped. "What happened?" she asked, her voice low, her heart pounding. Lena's eyes darted away. "It's nothing," she said, but her voice cracked. Mia didn't believe her. She grabbed Lena's hand, gently turning her wrist to see the bruise. It was fresh, the edges purple and angry. "Who did this?" Mia's voice was a growl, her anger barely contained. Lena pulled her hand away, her eyes filling with tears. "Caleb," she whispered. "He was waiting for me after work. He didn't do anything else. Just grabbed me. Said I needed to learn my place." Mia saw red. She wanted to find Caleb to make him pay, but Lena's hand on her arm stopped her. "Don't," Lena said, her voice breaking. "It'll only make it worse." Mia's jaw clenched, but she nodded, her heart a storm of rage and helplessness. She stayed close to Lena for the rest of the shift, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of Caleb. He didn't show, but the fear lingered, a shadow over everything. That night, Mia made a decision. She wasn't going to let this town destroy them. She wasn't going to let Caleb win. She didn't know how, but she was going to fight, for Lena, for herself, for the love they'd found in the unlikeliest of places. Mia couldn't sleep. The bruise on Lena's wrist haunted her, a dark reminder of the danger they faced. She sat on her bed, the room lit only by the faint glow of a streetlight, her hands clenched into fists. She'd spent her life running from pain, from judgment, from herself. But she wasn't running anymore. Not when Lena needed her. The next morning, Mia went to the diner early, her heart heavy but her resolve firm. She found Lena in the back, prepping coffee filters, her movements mechanical. "We need to talk," Mia said, her voice low but steady. Lena looked up, her eyes tired but curious. "I'm not letting him hurt you again," Mia said, stepping closer. "We're going to the police. Today." Lena's face crumpled, fear flashing in her eyes. "Mia, you don't understand. This town, they won't help. They'll make it worse." "Then we leave," Mia said, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "We get out of here, go somewhere safe. Together." Lena's eyes widened, a mix of hope and disbelief. "You do that? For me?" "For us," Mia corrected, her voice thick with emotion. She reached out, her hand cupping Lena's cheek, her thumb brushing away a tear. "I love you, Lena. I'm not losing you." Lena's breath hitched, and she leaned into Mia's touch, her eyes closing. "I love you too," she whispered, the words a lifeline in the storm. They stood there, foreheads touching, the world fading away until it was just them. Two women holding on to each other in a town that didn't want them. They went to the police station that afternoon, Lena's hand trembling in Mia's as they walked through the doors. The officer, a middle-aged man with a bored expression, listened to their story with barely concealed disinterest. "Sounds like a misunderstanding," he said, scribbling a note. "We'll talk to Caleb, but don't expect much." Mia's blood boiled, but she kept her voice steady. "He threatened her. He hurt her. That's not a misunderstanding." The officer shrugged, and Mia knew Lena was right. This town wouldn't help, but she wasn't giving up. They left the station, Lena's shoulders slumped, but Mia's mind was racing. She'd find a way to keep Lena safe, even if it meant leaving everything behind. That night they made a plan. Seattle, like Lena had said. Mia had some savings, enough for bus tickets and a cheap apartment. Lena knew someone there, a friend from college who could help them get on their feet. It wasn't much, but it was a start. They sat in the park, their hands clasped, the stars above them a promise of something better. But Caleb wasn't done. The next day, he was waiting outside the diner when Lena's shift ended. Mia was there, her boots crunching on the gravel as she stepped between them. "Leave her alone," she said, her voice a low growl. Caleb's eyes narrowed, his smirk gone. "You think you're tough?" he said, stepping closer. "You're nothing. Both of you." Mia didn't back down. She stood tall, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. "We're more than you'll ever understand," she said, her voice steady. Lena's hand found hers, squeezing tight, and Mia felt a surge of strength. They were together, and that was enough. Caleb lunged, but Mia was faster. She pushed Lena behind her, her body a shield, and swung her fist, catching Caleb's jaw. He stumbled back, stunned, and Mia stood her ground, her chest heaving. "Don't come near her again," she said, her voice a warning. Caleb spat on the ground, his eyes dark with rage, but he backed off, disappearing into the night. Lena was shaking, but she clung to Mia, her face buried in Mia's shoulder. "You're crazy," she whispered, a laugh breaking through her tears. "Crazy for you," Mia said, her voice soft but sure. They stood there, holding each other, the diner's neon sign flickering in the distance. It wasn't over, not yet, but Mia knew they'd face it together. The next week was a whirlwind. Mia and Lena worked their shifts, their eyes meeting across the diner, a silent promise in every glance. They were leaving, and the thought filled Mia with equal parts fear and hope. She'd never had something worth fighting for, not like this. Lena was her reason, her anchor, her home. They packed light, their lives fitting into 2 backpacks. Mia's held a few clothes, her jazz records, and a photo of her and Lena from the diner's Christmas party, both of them laughing, Lena's arm slung around Mia's shoulders. Lena's bag held her favorite coffee mug, a notebook filled with recipes, and a worn copy of the bell jar. They didn't need much, just each other. The night before they left, they sat in the park one last time, the air cool and the stars bright. Lena's head rested on Mia's shoulder, their hands clasped tight. "Are we really doing this?" Lena asked, her voice soft but steady. "Yeah," Mia said, her heart full. "We are." The bus station was quiet, the early morning light casting long shadows. Mia held Lena's hand as they boarded, their tickets to Seattle clutched tight. The bus smelled of stale air and old leather, but to Mia it was freedom. They found seats near the back, Lena's head resting against Mia's shoulder as the engine rumbled to life. The town faded behind them, its streets and judgment shrinking in the rearview mirror. Mia looked at Lena, her face peaceful in sleep, and felt a warmth she'd never known. They were leaving behind fear, pain, and a town that didn't want them. But they were carrying something new: love, hope, and the promise of a life where they could be themselves. In Seattle, they found a small apartment above a bookstore. The walls thin but the view of the city skyline breathtaking. Lena got a job at a coffee shop, her smile brighter than Mia had ever seen. Mia found work at a community center, teaching kids to play basketball, her hands no longer callous from mopping but from high fives and encouragement. They built a life together piece by piece. It wasn't perfect. There were bills to pay, arguments to navigate, and moments of doubt. But every night they came home to each other, their hands finding each other in the dark, their laughter filling the small space. Mia would play her jazz records and Lena would dance, her movements light and free, like she'd finally found her place. One evening, as rain tapped against their window, Lena pulled Mia close, her eyes bright with love. "You saved me," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Mia shook her head, her hand cupping Lena's cheek. "We saved each other," she said, and kissed her, the taste of coffee and home on her lips. They weren't just a janitor and a barista anymore. They were Mia and Lena, two women who'd fought for their love and won. And in the quiet moments when the world was still, Mia knew that this messy, beautiful, hard-won life was everything she'd ever wanted.